Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another backtesting video. So we're continuing from yesterday's session, and obviously we took a loss, and we go away, we digest, we evaluate why, and there's a couple of things which ultimately stood out, which I think is important. Let me just okay, cool. Which I think was important, and we noted that. So we obviously noted this imbalance here, and one of the things that we alluded to. So if we just very quickly before we move on to the next day, if we look at interesting. Oh, sorry, it's doing that old chestnut again. That's better. So if we look at this level here, this imbalance, we can see how we were finding support at the imbalance, and we assumed the SMT here, which in the end we can safely say was invalid. And the key reason that we noted in terms of why this trade, as far as I'm concerned, was not successful was, so we ultimately had our time frame SMT at the highs. Now this would be classified as, you could say, as partial SMT, because it's not the highest high. That being said, it's SMT with YM. So we could, if we wanted to, let's just, for argument's sake, so this is SMT, okay, with YM, and as we can see, YM creating that higher high. And if we look at the comparable, if we look at the comparables there, we can see that with hold on, what is that? Yeah, so we can see the SMT at the highs here, which we hadn't noted. So from that standpoint, and dropping down, like I said, one of the things we've noted on the H4 time frame is that there was no, because NQ had traded through to and through this BISI, whereas ES had not. Therefore, this is showing intent to reprice lower. And the only way that this would potentially continue higher is if there is a Kraken correlation based on liquidity. So if we had a previous day's low, or if we had a old low H4 which was purged here and formed this SMT, then that would potentially set the stage for higher prices. But that was not the case here. We had symmetrical lows, and we had NQ indicating it didn't want to trade higher by closing below this aligned BISI. That was the indication for lower prices. And so that was where we could look at that, on the M15 and say, okay, there's the order block. We've traded below. If there was an M5 imbalance there, which there wasn't an M5 imbalance in here, and also as well, you've got the hourly SIBI, which was respected on ES. But needless to say, we had that, looking for lower prices, for confirmation of lower prices, and then ultimately there was a SIBI here. Whether we would have got the trade and whether we would have got the actual trade itself here, because there was no imbalance, traded below, still no imbalance. So it was probably a non-trade, but nonetheless, that was that. But we keep it moving. We've taken the notes, which that's the most important part, is taking the notes. I'm here to, improve my training disciplines, improve my understanding of the market, improve my models, and these are the types of takeaways that I love to take when backtesting. This is the type of stuff. Now, it's interesting because I was saying how I did not fancy the trade, and then in the end I ultimately took the trade, and that was interesting in itself, because I was not necessarily convinced or had the same conviction for this trade. But you live and you learn, and that's the purpose of backtesting, is to iron out a lot of these things. So ultimately happy with that. We did have low time frame SMT there as well, which is good. Anyway, so we got to 12 o'clock. We're gonna move. What day are we on? Wednesday. So we're gonna move into Thursday. Just double check the economic calendar. We'll have to find that in a second. Pretty certain there's news. Let me see. Where's my calendar gone? So it's not that one. Oh, sorry, it's right in front of me. So yeah, we do have news at 8:30 the following day. Okay, so yes, we're gonna forward this one on. Be interesting to see what the market does. And as you can see, continue to reprice lower. In actual fact, if you look at the hourly order block here, 1, 2, interesting. Continued lower to the low time frame draw. Okay, so and then we want another one and one more. Okay, get rid of that. I just want to maintain. Okay, so yeah, really good takeaway. So we're gonna venture out to the first off to the daily. We want to see what we have. I'm going to take off the SMTs for now because what I want to do is have a look at what the market is actually doing at the highs, which I think is key. So we can see from a daily standpoint, they are united. Market could potentially be trading down to here. That's potentially of interest. Or we still could see continuation of higher prices. Highly unlikely. So we can get rid of that. Want to get out my marker tool. So Wednesday started here. What's that? 27.50. Close proximity to here, so I'm not too worried by that. Obviously, that's the low. That's the low. And okay, so I just want the SMT visible on this time frame. And just for reference, with YM. And it is important now for me to actually just reflect the SMT on the relevant time frame and lower, just so I know the significance of that SMT. Right, so we had that, which is fine. Obviously, the Wednesday high was over here, which is fine. But that is a key liquidity. There's a liquidity pool nonetheless for us to. There's actually a couple. One being that one. this one here, and then we've obviously got previous day's low, which is above the true week open, which is interesting, but it could act as a draw. Just realised don't need that. Okay, and potentially something there, but we're just going to mark it as an unconfirmed because I haven't got no confirmation yet. So we've got those price levels in. We're not seeing any displacement, which is fine. Okay. Don't think there is anything else to note. No. So, excuse me. So we are on the 31st. So, take a bit of coffee. Lovely. Right. So, if we're looking at the daily, the reality is per the daily, this is still bullish. Okay. Just going to get rid of, I'll leave that there for now. So relative to the daily time frame, IOF is still bullish as the market continues to reprice higher. Okay, bullish fair value gaps are being repriced and rebalanced, or being left unfilled, with the market showing a willingness to reprice higher. Okay. Now, okay. Okay. So that's important to note that it's bullish. Now remember, in fact, I should preface this because I haven't. This is actual partial SMT. It's just a key level within there. It's not the highest levels of the day. It's not that. Okay, so just got to make sure we note that because SMT here has supported higher prices at the lows. Okay. And I'd be looking for a deeper purge on NQ. Excuse me. So, there we go. So, happy enough with that for IOF. It's not really, as I said, from a 4-hour standpoint, looks markedly bearish. However, as I said, we've got to take into consideration the fact that the daily's still bullish, which is important. So we'll have to monitor that. Okay, so it's ERL, IRL. So if we go back out to the daily as a bare minimum, I mean, we can go to the weekly, but in terms of the weekly, we've obviously purged the high external range liquidity, potential SMT there, but I wouldn't necessarily note that per se. But ultimately, the market has traded to external range liquidity in the form of the old high weekly. Therefore, any higher time frame cracking correlation relative to the daily time frame would potentially support the idea of the market seeking internal range liquidity below the marketplace. Until that forms, my preference would be seeking higher prices for the market to make a deeper purge of the old high weekly. So what am I saying here? I'm saying that ES has purged this high, but look at NQ, extremely shallow. I mean, has NQ even purged it? I think it has. Yes, it has. So I'd expect to see a deeper purge. Doesn't have to, but I'd expect to see it, right? So that's the first thing. The second thing is that I'd like to see on the daily time frame, a cracking correlation at the highs if we're going to trade down to here. Now, that doesn't mean that if I don't get the framework on the H4, I wouldn't sell. I would. And I would be more inclined to sell on the H4 than I would be inclined to buy. What I'm saying is from a macro perspective, that should the market, that my belief is that the market is more likely to trade higher than trade down here. However, the H4 time frame or framework is supporting lower prices. So I've got to be mindful. There are confluences that I have which support lower prices, which we saw in yesterday's price action. So I've got to be mindful. I've got to know what I'm looking for. And when those things come into fruition, now it could well be that the market has traded above external range liquidity. It wants to trade down into internal, then it's going to continue higher. That's possible. I'm just going to ride the coattails of whatever the market presents. ERL to IRL for me is important. I don't necessarily think that it is always the case that it's, what's the word that I want to say? I almost want to say linear, but that wouldn't necessarily be the best example. Where, okay, we've purged external range liquidity right now, look for internal. No, you got to wait for the market to give you signals that we are ready to look for internal range liquidity. Now, in theory, the market has given signals based on a lower time frame framework as opposed to the daily. I just think that if we see it on the daily, that is far more concrete than if we see it on the 4-hour. But that doesn't mean that the 4-hour can't be the driver for us to see lower prices. I would just prefer to see a cracking correlation visible on the daily time frame to support the idea of lower prices. That's all. Does not mean I wouldn't take a short. So SPs, so bear with me because this is get rid of that. But it is in close proximity, so that is something to also bear in mind. Oops. So I've noted the clean and clear swing point below the marketplace or below current price. Referencing the previous day's low, and also where near term liquidity would reside. Okay. Now, important to note that this key price level has formed above the true week open therefore lowering I want to say lowering the probability of trade, but it doesn't necessarily mean that. It just means that the market could be quite strong. Therefore, this could indicate strength. But it does lower the efficacy of my potential trading model. Okay, so I just want to make that clear. So TO, I mean, this one is sort of less important, but it just gives you an idea. So currently, all members are trading above their respective true week open, supporting the idea of high probability shorts. Okay. Pattern correlation. I have noted the high time frame cracking correlation at the highs, supporting lower prices. However, it is important to note that the market has not yet traded to an H4 inflection level. That's key. So cracking correlation at the highs. So a couple of models that we could present from here. And then we're on to game plans. Okay, so it's certainly supporting the idea of near-term lower prices. We'll have a look at some game plans. obviously a very clear one during oh, sometimes. Just a bit of coffee. Okay. Okay. So yeah, this would have. Let me just bear with me. So we obviously have this imbalance here, which we've now traded through. So I'm just going to note this BISI, which has been traded through. So just going to note that. So we're just going to note that. Okay, just bear with me. Okay, right back. Sorry about the creaky chair. Should really invest in a new one, but you know how it is. Anyway, where were we? Let's get this correct. Yeah, that one. No, it's reversed on here. Sorry. So again, let's just. These are the aligned. And so yeah, really strange why you can't amend these, but oh well. How it's been written for FX replay, I guess. Anyway, let's continue. Alright, so we can see that we've traded to and through, closed below. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly just check the 15 minutes. Interesting. Purge there, no. highs there. So anyway, let's just get back to the hourly. Get back on track. I was just having a little mooch. Yeah, so we haven't traded to a H4 inflection yet, so I'm keen to see that happen. No real displacement on the hourly, if I'm honest. So that's interesting. So I'm just going to mark that up. Now we just want to mark up any other elements. So we've got this London high here. Okay. Maybe, you know, we've got the London low in here, but to be fair, all of them have purged that level, so I'm not necessarily too focused on that. It's not massively important. It probably supports the idea of further lower prices, if I'm honest. So I'm just going to put those in. Okay. Right. Okay. So let's have a look at what we're thinking in terms of game plan. So we had the high time frame Kraken correlation above the market, which formed across yesterday. I do think ultimately the market wants to go higher, but that could be seen at a significantly later point. I'm keen to see one of these assets trade down to their previous day's low. Be interesting to see. I mean, they roughly all look relatively the same. Probably YM is closer, but yeah, NQ probably the most volatile. So again, you know, that could be interesting in itself. But it's marginal between them all. Okay, so they've all traded through the aligned BISI, so that supports lower prices. So my initial game plan would be at these potential highs to see lower prices, but we've already had a Kraken correlation, so I'm not necessarily convinced that we could potentially trade back up there, which is what I need to be extremely mindful of. The hourly order block here, so I'm just going to mark that up, which is interesting in itself. Okay, so let's just extend that out a little bit more, just so we don't get the overlap. I think that's fine. Sorry, OCD just kicking in. That's fine. Okay. So, I mean, this is the order block responsible. This is a high probability. It's actually a propulsion block. This is the order block here. If I'm honest, that's created the high. Purged hourly liquidity here as well. To create this high. Less so the case here. It's an interesting model or interesting market. Okay. So there's a couple of things that I'd like to see. I would, but I don't necessarily think it's going to be the case. I would like to see another purge of the highs here. That's a potential model, which I'm going to note. Now, I'm not noting these in any particular order. Based on how the market is, I think that we could see lower prices relatively quickly. Now, if we see a displacement lower, okay. So, with price being above the true week open, ideally we would like to see price trade above the midnight open, and this is what brings one of my other models into consideration, but we'll get to that in a second. So if price being above the true week open, if we note an hourly displacement lower, if an low time frame cracking correlation forms at the imbalance, this could set the stage for lower prices. Okay. 2, with the market being above the true week open, if the market forms the interesting thing is it could actually form a high time frame cracking correlation, because this is now the Asian range high is actually now a high time frame key level. So, that's what I'd be looking for, the Asian range high, not the London high, but the Asian range. If that got purged, then whatever sort of low. We can use London because they're in close proximity to each other, so that is an option as well. There would be stops resting above there. So if the market forms I'm going to put both high time frame or low time frame cracking correlation at the highs, this could support lower prices. Okay. So they're my two options in terms of lower prices. The third option trade would be if the market displaces lower quickly and then forms an high time frame cracking correlation at the lows, ideally below the true week open, this could support the idea of higher prices. So they would be the three models that I would ultimately be looking at. I'm just going to go out to the 4 hour just to see. As I said, obviously we've got potentially something there. You know, so I'm not necessarily convinced that we need to come higher. Possibly. But if we're going to come higher, I would want to see a cracking correlation at the lows, personally. But again, the market could just reverse and continue higher. That's fine. Then I sit on the sidelines and I do nothing. So they're my three options. Let's drop down to the 15 and just tidy up some of our levels, or some of our time. Okay. And then we want equities. Okay. There we go. So we're going to stick on the M5 for now till we get to the news, which is at 8:30. And then obviously we've got equities open. And remember, we've got non-farm payroll. So we could see a choppy day, because we certainly could see a choppy day. But again, if we see that, then we'll act accordingly and do nothing. So let's stick on the M15, use the M5, and let's see where we go. We're going to go up to pace 1. Let's go. And I'm a bit of coffee, keeping an eye on what's going on. Isn't that interesting? Interesting. Could form a cracking correlation here. Although, depending on how YM closes, could support a it's interesting. Certainly looks like we're going up to the news. Okay, right, we're at the news. Sorry, I'm a bit late with that. Gonna drop that down to the 1 minute. So let's just pop out to the hourly. Let's see what we've got here. So we have okay, that. Perfect. And there's no imbalance on YM. So it's not looking like a trade idea as far as I'm concerned. We've got the aligned candle here. We've all traded above that level. Yes, they've rejected. Look at this level here. And between ES and NQ, no one's violated CBs. So yeah, we could potentially just see a continuation of lower prices. I'm not that that interested. Let me just make sure that we haven't got any sort of hourly liquidity pools that I need to be aware of. No, we haven't. So we're just going to let the market sort of play on a little bit, see if it's going to continue lower or whether it feels the need to want to go higher. Just going to. So equities open looks the more likely. So I've just paused it a second. Just want to. Yeah, it just certainly looks like continuation lower. None of them are particularly close to that key price level, if I'm honest. But we'll see. Let's go. I'm going out to the hourly because what I'm going to do is the interesting thing here is at this candle. I wonder if we may have missed the boat. Let's just see. I don't think we have. No, it didn't offer. So that was its proportion block. Essentially, it hasn't delivered. On NQ, it hasn't delivered 35.50, 35.25. So it didn't quite get there. So it didn't trade back up into the odd block. I'm looking at the odd block key level because we do have a model potentially here utilizing the hourly order block of all order blocks. We can see, you know, where utilizing the hourly order block, we have 15. Sorry, if we go here, we had obviously M15 displacement here, which we can use as a supporting confluence. So we had the M15 displacement there, but we also had within here the and we certainly had it here, in fact. That's a BPR. Okay, so we've got the BPR there, and maybe some slim reference of it there. So my point being is that supported the hourly bullish order block, and obviously, as we can see, the market traded away, confirmed, traded back up into it, and then obviously we've had this. So this imbalance here should support price trading lower. So we're just going to go back to the M15. We'll keep an eye on it. Want to see displacement. We'll wait for equities open. That might present an opportunity. I think ultimately it might reprice lower. So it's tagging the hourly imbalance again. I'm just going to go back out to the hourly. Unfortunately, I think this might just be one of those moves that happened pre-session, but we'll go to equities. We've got still 20 minutes until, but I've got a feeling the market's going to displace lower, wants to get to that liquidity pool quickly. We're going to get to equities open now. Here we go. Should drive this lower. There we go. This is where it gets really interesting. Okay, so want to see a deeper purge, if I'm honest, on NQ, but let's see. That's a far more deeper purge now. It's interesting. Didn't close above, but again, we're looking at this candle here and we're thinking there is no order block on NQ, so I'm looking at that and thinking we should be seeing lower prices. Yeah, no, there's nothing there yet. So looking at this, we were correct in our assessment that no H4 inflection point was purged, so seeking lower prices. Now, unfortunately, at the news, I'm not sure if it would have been sort of tagged in, but we could have potentially have taken a trade here. Very potentially. I'm not saying that there was ultimately something there. A cracking correlation at that level would have been good. That wasn't necessarily the case. So we just wait and see what the market. Now, if all of them, it very much looks like ES is going to purge that low as well, and if ES purges that low, then it's kind of all bets off on our trade opportunity, if I'm honest. Potential trade idea, but we'll need to see what ES does. I think ES wants to see lower prices currently. We've got this imbalance here. Unfortunately, there's no imbalance on ES, so it's not looking. Let's have a look. It's interesting. Now, why is that interesting? Because of this candle here. Let's see what we've got. 10 minutes for this candle close, so let's see what happens. As we anticipated, ES is not looking okay. Now this is rather interesting now. Because we potentially have it's getting right to the end of this candle here is an important candle. That one, that's an important candle. YM's also formed a bullish BPR. So if we go to the 5 minute, we can see there was displacement on NQ. These lows do look as though they will probably be revisited. But let's see what NQ does. We need to see a candle closure above there. So right now we haven't got that. So we're just going to have to wait. Okay, so we're likely going to get that. Where's the hourly order block? Which is here. Been in this position before. Hourly order block there. Go back to the 15. Okay. So this is very much looking like a trade idea. I don't like these relative equal lows. I'll be honest. Don't like it one little bit. But first and foremost, let's see if hold on. I should really mark up. I can do that. Let's see if we get a trade down into it. Oh, damn it. It did tag it. It is the I mean, it is the model. Would have been far better had we traded below the true week open. That would have cemented this trade. I can't say I particularly like it on the basis that it's not. And I think I'm going to stay out of this one. Like I said, if this traded below, but then at the same time, one of them is not going to be able to trade below. If I'm going to see a cracking correlation, this level has formed above. So maybe we take something at half risk. I just want to drop to the 5 minute second. Let me just see. It's me. And the better trade would have been there, but you know, let's have a look. All the way up to here. Quite high. Interesting. No M15, but it has closed above its no, I'm going to leave that. Like I said, I wish if we were below the true week open, I would have been happy with that. I'm going to leave the trade. I'm going to see it play out. If it plays out, it plays out. It is what it is. Would have taken it at half risk. Let's just mark up the risk and reward tool. Not taking the trade though, mind. This would have been the better entrance. So we're just going to mark it as what the best entry should have been. I got a little bit clicker happy. I should have not pressed play but click forward. But anyway, let's see what happens. expect that still to go higher, but we'll see. That line in the sand is going to be the BISI there. I just don't like the equal. Like I said, it's above the 2 week open. But if it forms and it goes to fruition, then great. But I'm sticking to my rules. My rules are they need to form below. If I'm bullish, below the 2 week open, and if I'm bearish, above. And so it is what it is. That's looking kind of bullish if it was going to close above there, which it didn't. So it's looking actually quite bearish right now. As long as that holds, which it has, this could go bullish. Oh no, we're still not seeing a close above the bullish order block, which is this candle here. We're not seeing anything, so this is looking bearish. We need to see a close above that candle. Now we've closed back through the the BISI. Now it's looking extremely bearish. So this is now past New York, into New York lunch, where we're likely to see. I can't see why ES would not now take out that low, but again, could be wrong. Hasn't traded above here yet, so that's still supporting lower prices. And now we've got and there we go. And there we go, it traded. So, you know, do I feel vindicated by not taking the long? Yes, because I stuck to my rules. And that's the important thing about this backtesting session and this playlist is sticking to the rules. My rules, yes, it could have indicated strength, but what did I write in the description? I said that important to know that this key price level was formed above the 2 week open, therefore this could indicate strength, but it does lower the efficacy of my potential trade model. There you go. And that's why, from my backtesting data, that key price level below the 2 week open improves the trade idea significantly as opposed to it being above it. Wants to come down into a discount, which is below the 2 week open, before we reprice higher. So there we go. So I put that down to loss avoidance. So I'm going to end this session here. Hopefully you've taken something away that is extremely useful. Again, if you wouldn't mind, like the channel or like the video, subscribe to the channel. Really appreciate the support. Hopefully you're enjoying the content. I am giving you the true form of backtesting, not the click happy approach that a lot of people have. Backtesting is important to replicate as close as you can the live environment without necessarily the psychological emotion that you will feel. So hopefully you are getting value from this. Hopefully you took away some key points from this this session, and I'm going to leave this one here, and I'm going to catch you guys in the next one.